All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of the last Newsdesk on the left. I am your nearly comatose host, Mac Paladin. a lot of work going on here, preparing for a inspection on the building. This one,
Oh boy.
this one's state sponsored, so it's probably fine, but better to be safe than sorry.
Yeah.
Of course, we got our crew here. Adam, of course, is co-hosting.
Yes, I am.
Got Kevin in the house.
Somehow, some way.
Petty fans over there.
Oh God, where am I?
As I saw him standing there. Anyway, the Golix is here as well.
I was wondering if you remembered.
Well, you're in so many shows now. It's starting to get complicated.
I mean, it will get less complicated in a few weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as a weekly thing, last Newsdesk on the left has one more week left, and then the plan I believe we discussed was that we would return for a 6 to 13 episode mini-series during important political seasons.
Uh-huh. Like, this will probably return sometime in the fall next year, and midterms are hitting up.
Exactly. So, that'll be a thing. That'll definitely be a thing.
Yeah. But in the meantime, we've got arcs to conclude.
Indeed. It seems a thing is happening with infrastructure.
Well, not is happening, has happened.
Right. Well, I mean,
Because-
technically it is happening because once it's signed, then it must be implemented.
Right, but the big news is that the bipartisan infrastructure deal has passed both chambers of Congress.
And of course,
And-
Donald Trump is beside himself because it passed.
He literally had the opportunity to get this done, but he turned it down because of some act of pettiness. No.
And now he's trying to change the narrative to say that it was Mitch McConnell's fault that it didn't get passed the first time around.
He's blaming
Which fair, but
always blaming someone else for his fucking failures. Like, I don't think it's really taking.
I'm pretty sure we could set a clock to that, my friend.
I don't think anybody's really fooled by it this time. I mean, his I think he was at a fundraiser over the weekend for one of the PACs. I forget which one it was. Something about congressional Republicans, and he just rambled on for like 12 minutes incoherently about this. Nobody could follow anything because it was completely and utterly grammatically incorrect.
So, the usual then.
Yeah.
But yeah. Well, right now, the targets of Republican ire are on the 12 Republican House members who voted for the BIF.
I thought it was 13.
12, 13, yeah, I think it was 13. However many it was, mind you, this thing passed with, 15 Republican senators voting for it?
Right.
How dare you guys allow the opposing party to accomplish something that is widely politically popular?
Yeah, mind you,
Even among your own
They
bases.
I don't think they have the same hate boner for Joe Biden that they did for Barack Obama.
I wonder
something skin color.
Yeah.
What, Adam? I didn't catch what you were trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few differences, let's say.
Yeah.
Like,
so some not insignificant differences.
Yeah, mind you, it's
Perhaps not the first one that comes to mind is that Joe Biden has been a co-worker of a lot of them for a long time.
All right, that is very true. Adam, sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, so 13 Republicans voted for this, 6 Dems voted against. And I will say it's been a nice side effect because the squad in their, let's say, political obnoxiousness decided to stage one of their protest votes because, something about this not being enough and, leverage gone or whatever. At the end of the day, they are on record as voting no for, lead pipe removal, and we'll get into all the stuff that the bipartisan infrastructure deal actually does in a bit. But
yes, it's true that it's not enough. However, at some point, something is better than nothing.
and
Shock.
and they've been pretty much been dragged all week about it because once again they've been trying to explain that what they were doing, but it's an old political axiom: if you're explaining, you're losing. And they haven't been able to justify their actions to their base, which is why AOC had to apparently cancel Instagram Live conversation because people are mad at her because at the end of the day you just did an anti-environmentalist move here. That doesn't really matter what you were trying to go for. And it's also
it's still not a very progressive look to be, for example, against a forest fire prevention bill because it doesn't also save the whales.
Yeah, it's also like how the very online leftists have renewed their, quite frankly, tedious attacks on Nancy Pelosi because she apparently officiated or attended a wedding of some oil guy.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, well, here's the thing. Like, she helped shepherd the fucking BIF into existence. And contrary to what the progressives online think, I don't think anyone in the House really wants the Build Back Better to fall apart. And keep in mind, also, it's not really on them.
Yeah.
The problem's not in the fucking House. It's in the Senate.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like reconciliation is still not a certitude, even though they've now whittled the bill down to $1.75 trillion.
Right.
And now the banking watchdog provision has been nixed, or is all but nixed. Which they were making outlandish claims that it was going to pay for anywhere from 200 to 400 billion dollars worth of the 1.75 trillion dollars, and the CBO wasn't willing to certify it because they said, well, we can't tack on estimated gains because it's an expenditure with a uncertain return on investment. And so the whole Joe Biden and we're going to pay for 100% of the bill with these higher income bracket tax strategies and making sure people aren't committing banking fraud or whatever the fuck it is that they thought that they were doing.
I mean,
was going to cover the nut, and the CBO said we can't certify that.
Right.
We can't certify that because it's an unknown quantity at this time until they actually audit, literally millions of bank accounts.
Right.
There's no way to know.
I guess is fair, but
yeah.
Yeah.
There's just no way to know, and they're right on this. And so they said if you're going to put it in reconciliation, you cannot make this statement in the bill.
Right.
And so, go ahead.
Well, one of the biggest pay-fors of the bipartisan infrastructure legislation is greater enforcement against cryptocurrencies. This is especially interesting because apparently, like every corporation worth their salt seems to be getting into NFTs.
Right, and there's a big NFT scam, which is an ancient scam about creating fake products and then buying it yourself or staging buyers. It's a whole convoluted mess. And there was a tweet storm about it. Using alternative acronyms to keep the crypto bots away.
Right.
Big joke calling them NTFSs, which some dipshit decided to say was going to get them sued by Microsoft. And I said, this is one of those people who are tech savvy are already in on the joke and are not going to bring defamation suits because of a Twitter feed that has an acronym that can't possibly mean the thing that you think it means.
Right.
And it's already been explained, and Microsoft has already been slapped for dumber lawsuits than that. They're just not going to do it again because who gives a fuck? But, that's Twitter for you.
Yes. But what is, and I suppose, an actual concern to the crypto community is, so starting in 2023, the IRS is going to start looking into transactions involving cryptocurrency of $10,000 or more.
Good. Or to paraphrase the complaint I heard about it, digital assets are now going to be considered assets.
Oh, you mean my whole scam to circumvent the entire United States economic system here is now going to be looked at critically by the Internal Revenue Service? What a fucking shock!
Also, it is perhaps worth mentioning that the entire art trade, it pretty much works on the same.
Well, and it's also pretty heavily fraudulent because of the fact that when you buy an NFT, you don't actually get the product.
Yeah, you get a receipt that says that you own
the NFT.
Yeah,
not the actual piece of art.
It's a pyramid scheme that can be defeated by the right click, and boy, the crypto bros are really angry that the right click exists. As it turns out,
yep.
Oh, hey. This.
Yeah, I saw a fun one about did you know that by making this tweet with that as your avatar, your computer has automatically sent your image to my computer? Because that's how fucking hypertext transfer and fucking
use
HTML
your words.
Works. HTML.
Hypertext transfer protocol. You mean HTTP?
Yeah, HTTP and HTML. Whatever, both of those.
Yeah,
they involve sending files.
Yeah, I mean every image that has ever come across your computer through your browser is now on your computer somewhere if you know where to look.
Unless you set your caches to delete very regularly. Even then,
remember how we're always
delete. Right, when you delete something, you're actually just deleting the thing that points to it, and it's still there until it gets overwritten with something else.
This is how people who are into bad things and looking at bad things, and we won't elaborate on that on this channel, but this is how people who look into bad things get fucked. I totally deleted that. See, I emptied my recycle bin and everything. Yeah.
The only way to be sure is to put a nail through the drive.
And even
that or completely fill it with noise.
Yeah. DOD wipe. That was a running joke we had at the shop was, oh yeah, we'll just do a DOD wipe on it. It's like sometimes I feel bad for some of the stuff that goes on in retail, and the rest of the time I'm like, well, you brought this on yourself.
Sometimes you feel bad. Most of the time you're laughing.
Yeah, I'm glad to be away from that business. I don't have a lot of good feelings about a lot of the stuff that I was compelled to do.
It sounds like retail to me.
Yeah.
Who goes through retail liking it?
So I guess according to here's some local news for you. Speaking of infrastructure and the minimum wage, the city of Tucson has now passed a $15 minimum wage.
Yep.
Huh.
I do remember seeing that on election night.
I was surprised by this. Yeah, apparently we had a couple of seats up on the city council in the off year, and we passed a proposition that raised the city minimum wage to $15 an hour or something.
Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't get killed by Republicans.
Well, it depends on how
Yeah.
it depends on how it goes, because I had some questions. Kira and I were talking about this earlier, and the only thing I said was I don't know if the state legislature actually has the authority to override this. If the governor or the state legislature can actually rescind this, because
Well, then
this.
it may not be. If they're not rescinded, that might be able to undermine it.
Well, I don't know how. That's the thing. It's like because
the courts.
because it would depend on how the state constitution is actually structured. Because remember, we have that weird constitution that can be easily amended by the general populace. If we wanted to make statewide minimum wage of $15 an hour, all we need to do is put it on the ballot, and they can't override it. They didn't stop the $12 an hour minimum wage statewide, so so they didn't stop a lot of things.
Point taken.
So that's why Arizona is a strange and magical place, and not always in a good way. But yeah, so the city of Tucson now has a $15 an hour minimum wage going into effect, I believe, in January, and so that's a thing until it isn't. And like I said, I don't fully understand the complexities of state law and whatnot. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But like in California, for example, municipalities can control their minimum wage as long as it never drops below the state minimum wage, which I think currently is $10.50 an hour, something like that. The city of San Francisco has anywhere between $11.50 and $13 an hour or something like that as a minimum wage, and because of cost of living and all that stuff, obviously that's obsolete. And of course, Seattle and Washington instituted a $15 an hour minimum wage, even though the state minimum wage is, shall we say, substantially less. I think it's 10. I think the state minimum wage in Washington is 10. So yeah, that's kind of interesting stuff. But so yeah, politics as usual. But is there any more to cover on infrastructure? We should finish that discussion before we go off on the inadequacies of a $15 minimum wage.
Again, I was going to say something about some of the stuff that's in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we should conclude by actually going through what's in it, because that seems to be a lot of the misconversation here.
Right.
It's like a lot's being made of what isn't in it or what got moved over to BBB, but a lot of talk is going to be about what's in the bipartisan infrastructure deal, because first of all, it's not just a highway bill.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed,
apparently for some reason highway bills are an anathema to Congress, but yeah, go on.
Yeah. Well, it's
we
like
built them once. Why should we have to build more?
Yeah.
Well, like okay, it's not just
I know.
It's not just bridges. Well, rails is going to get its biggest expansion ever, but the infrastructure focus right now is ports. Like apparently the Biden administration is moving like right now to get money to the ports in order to deal with the supply chain problem.
Yep.
But once again, that is just one aspect. Like another thing you probably heard of is the whole deliver clean drinking water to all American families, it's getting rid of a lot of the lead pipes.
Yeah, so that way I don't have to have triple filtering on my tap water, so I don't get the shits in Tucson.
You know, yeah, and this is something that not only
Not
the
not
usual
not to mention
suspects
not to
do.
mention Flint, Michigan still doesn't have drinkable water.
Right.
I don't know how
But,
anybody lives in that city.
Because they can't move.
No, I know. I'm saying I don't know how anybody is able to, though. It's just,
You adapt. Like,
I guess so.
yeah. But once again, countering, like, one of the big, I guess there's no other way to quantify this, lies being stated by the left is the amount of money that's being set aside for the lead pipes project. Because it isn't 15 billion, it's 55. Which is quite a bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And still not enough, but that's beside the point.
Well, it's like it's hard to say if that's enough or not, but it's more than what is being claimed by certain people.
Right.
Yeah. Another big component of this, it's not just the hard traditional infrastructure, but broadband. This is going to be a big broadband expansion. It's like 65 billion there to bring reliable high-speed internet, specifically to like rural areas.
Yep.
This has been a problem, for a long time. Not the least of which is because the way internet broadband works in a lot of the country is it's basically a cartel business.
Can confirm.
Yep. They'll say monopoly. Well, here's the thing. It's it's more specifically a cartel because it's not only do you have a local monopoly, but all the cable companies have agreed to not go into other companies' territory.
Yep.
And yes, that is something that should not be a thing, but is. So, and the one of the net summations of that structure here in America is there's a lot of shitty broadband areas, specifically in rural areas, because it's not very cost effective to bring copper wiring or whatever out there. Like the best internet access you can get in a lot of places there is satellite DSL, and
yeah, when it works better in areas with higher population density.
Yeah, and I can tell you right now that broadband is shit even in the major metropolitan areas. Cox Cable did a major infrastructure upgrade here, and I had no internet for 4 days.
Yeah.
Like literally the day they said, "Okay, you're good to go," I was just like, "Well, I guess I'm doing all my interneting on my phone."
You're using smoke signals.
Yeah.
Let's see, 110 billion for repair and rebuilding, maintenance on roads and bridges with focus on climate change. They for all of the squawking about how the bipartisan infrastructure bill doesn't do enough for climate change and the environment, it's got the biggest chunk of change here, like 550 billion for climate change. I'm not saying that's enough, but I'm also saying that's not nothing. And that's like the single biggest individual earmark of this thing.
Right, and out of a bill that has a price tag of $1.2 trillion, $500 billion is a lot, especially considering how many climate deniers there are on the right that signed on for this.
Yeah, but I mean, that's that kind of shows you how attractive infrastructure is. At least hard infrastructure.
Well, if this basically creates, we'll use the dastardly term public works projects that brings money into these, shall we say, flyover states' coffers, then that's what made it attractive to them. was the fact
because
that they're getting the manja, if you know what I mean.
well, yeah, it's also, unlike, say, the health debate of 10 years ago, there really isn't a way to demonize building roads and bridges.
Right.
Or they didn't unlock that. It's like, oh no, they're going to fix potholes and, build high-speed rail. I think what was it, 88 billion for that, or I forget the amount, but it's going to be the biggest rail expansion in history. Not surprising, given how much of a rail champion Biden is, and he's not shy about it.
Coming down from Scranton every day.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean,
That was his thing. Riding around on a big old bus instead of having a fancy motorcade or flying on a private jet or anything like that. When he campaigned, he toured the country in a bus.
Yeah. Well, it's also in terms of train transportation, the most developed part of that these days in this country is what they call the Northeast Corridor. The train from Boston to New York to Washington, and Baltimore's in there as well. No.
I know as part of the rail portion of the bill, they were adding entirely new lines, which is this is kind of a big deal considering the fact that we haven't really had a new rail line installed in this country in what, a century, like a legitimate, entirely new branch that crosses areas that are completely unserved. This is not a minor thing.
No. None of the stuff here is minor. We're seeing big investments in public transportation, which is, by the way, a big tilt away from how America has worked for the last 100 to 150 years. Because we're kind of famous for being the car culture country.
Much to our own detriment, yes.
Yep.
Right. And, you're not going to flush all of that away. We're just too big, quite frankly. That's kind of one of the things that, Europe, Japan, they have very, very built up rail systems. They're also really small. Compared to
the entire country.
You could do a decent rail thing in the U.S. It would be very hub and spoke, but
I get that. I'm not saying that rail can't be improved in this country, but
Yeah, but the entire country of Japan can fit inside California.
Yeah, it's like these are the kind of considerations you do have to have. Like, we are literally a big country.
If you broke them up into smaller pieces and shoved them inside the box, Europe could fit inside Texas.
Yeah. So, getting our rail systems up to snuff would take, it's going to take a lot more than what it would cost in Japan or Belgium or what have you here. Yeah. Still, this is definitely
it's a start. It's finally a step in the right direction.
Yeah. It's like, and this is why the squad has been taking such heat. It's like, it's not enough, but this is all significant steps in the right direction. And to actually vote against that, well, you kind of showed your ass here. So, especially since you're not really going to cajole Manchin and Sinema into supporting BBB.
No.
You're going to have to work that out. So, trying to hold leverage and, making it as a cudgel just wasn't working. And I think that's one of the reasons why this finally passed. And keep in mind, I know, once again, people are trying to downplay it for various political reasons, but this is a big deal, not just in terms of, what's actually passed, but in terms of politics. Because, not just very famously, Trump promised an infrastructure bill that never transpired, but infrastructure's been proposed under Obama, I think all the way back to Bush, and never materialized. So we have actual infrastructure week coming, and that's not insignificant. In fact, you're probably going to be hearing a lot about it, or we should be hearing about it in the next year or so, because this is going to be one of the big things that Dems are going to tout, need to tout to keep that the Congress.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Trump. We were talking about Trump at the beginning there. Blathering on about, how mad he was that Republicans signed on at all for this infrastructure bill when they couldn't get it passed when they had control of both houses of Congress while he was president. And but then he went on about the border wall, and I'm like, Donnie, you don't want to brag about your border wall that originally was going to be, literally the impenetrable ramparts of Escape from L.A. Have been whittled,
and also paid for by Mexico,
that were then whittled down to corrugated aluminum slapped on a bunch of rebar,
much of which has already fallen down.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, this is a good segue into the more misfortunes of Donald Trump.
Yes.
Because, shifting from infrastructure to court cases.
Loser.
So we've actually had a very important court case that, once again, is kind of being underplayed. Because, so you might remember last month, Donald Trump sued the National Archives, among other governmental entities, to stop block the.
We'll say the suit was against the National Archives et al.
Right. Point is, he was trying to stop.
Who's Al?
Get out. Don't disrespect Al. He just died.
I know.
Anyway, so he was trying to block the release of various transcripts and information under the auspices of executive privilege.
Can't assert executive privilege if you ain't president no more.
That's basically what it came down to.
You also can't prevent people from doing things before they've found out the things that you don't want them to do.
I think what you're looking for is what the judge actually found is what's going on with those transcripts is within the public interest. And this is actually
Freedom of Information Act.
Well, it's not just that. It's because the personage who asserts executive privilege is the president. Who is the president?
Joseph R. Biden.
Joe
Jr.
Joe Biden has waived executive privilege over these documents and is in agreement with Congress that the Jan 6th committee should have these to get to the bottom of what happened on January 6th.
Well, but Trump is going to be reinstated any minute now.
Get out.
I'm like,
Get the fuck out.
As recently as a week ago, I drove some guy who I found out actually works for the Department of Justice and was meeting up with some of his FBI cronies, who was a trifecta. He was anti-vax, came to Arizona for quote-unquote medical choice so he didn't have to get his 5-year-old son vaccinated, is a big lie supporter, and he works for the FBI.
what?
He was saying it's going to be a Republican sweep here in Arizona in 2022, and all the crooked Democrats that helped cheat are gonna be going to jail. And this person works for our FBI.
Killing.
Chilling, yes, chilling is a good word for it. And I'm, not naming any information or anything like that, but yeah, it was definitely one of my more interesting Uber rides.
I don't doubt it. Meanwhile, the first violent offender in the January 6th riots have been sentenced to 3.5 years in prison. Yeah.
It's a start.
3 months 3 months less than what was asked for, but still, it's 3.5 years of prison time. That's all that matters.
Yeah, and it's like an additional 2 years of supervised release and $2,000 in fines.
Uh
You could have, yeah, you could have increased the fines there, but honestly, the sentencing is fine. We are talking about the actual charge was an assault against an officer, and this is about what you get for that. Like,
huh.
yeah, and it's a higher step than the 60 days or 6 months in jail because honestly, a lot of those have been like the lowest of the low hanging fruit. Like a lot of the non-violent trespassers. This is the first of a higher tier of criminal.
Uh,
See also the QAnon shaman, who I think the government's asking for like 51 months in prison or something like
Something
that.
like that.
Yeah. So the violent offenders are going to see more jail time than the non-violent ones, which is usually how it works. Like, anyway, getting back to the Trump case, yes. So the judge basically said that presidents aren't kings, and Donald Trump is not president. So she's not stopping anything. And so while the Trump administration did appeal, the deadline's on Friday. So if nothing happens between now and Friday, those documents are going to be sent off to the House. Because there's no injunction or stay on appeal. And I think just a couple of hours ago, another judge declined to do that. So,
yeah.
Do. Good night, sweetheart. Well, anyway.
Yeah, so
It's time to go. Do.
not that his chances are improved because I believe this is being appealed to the 11th Circuit, which is, I believe, is that Democrat aligned? I want to say so because that's the one that oversees D.C. Yeah. It's not the Fifth Circuit where the Republicans dominate.
Yeah.
So, it's like even if it makes it there, it may not make it there in time. Ironic that somebody who likes running out the clock is now staring down the barrel of running out the clock.
Well, I still find it hilarious how hard he's trying to stop this shit. Almost like he's not an innocent person.
Looking at Devin's control it. Trump has 6 appointees. The Chief Justice is a Bush appointee, and there's a couple from Reagan and H.W. Bush.
But the question is that going to be enough? Or rather, are they going to be in time? Because once again,
Right.
That's the big question here. Because there's no stay. Unless they act by, I think, midnight on Friday, it's done. The clock's against Trump right now. I'm not saying that he won't make it in time, but once again, the clock's against him, not for him this time. Anyway, so I suppose we should start shifting to the entertainment stuff by mentioning that unfortunately Dean Stockwell has passed away.
Yep.
Yeah. Mike, and if you don't know who Dean Stockwell is,
I made a reference to this in the previous segment.
right. Well, I suppose he's most well known for Quantum Leap.
Don't disrespect Al.
Yes, but he's had a long career. Like he was in Blue Velvet. I don't remember what else.
The ill-fated McHale's Navy movie.
Right.
It's like, hey, didn't we just say don't disrespect Al? He was probably the only good part of that film. Okay, no,
Really?
that's not fair. Tim Curry was awesome.
Yeah. Tim Curry is usually good. Um,
Even when he's playing a former KGB agent.
yeah. But if you don't know him from Quantum Leap, you probably know him from Battlestar Galactica, the reboot. He was Brother Cavill.
Right?
Like I said, he's got a lot of roles because he was in show business a good long while.
More than 50 years.
Yeah, years active, 1945 to 2015. So, like I said, we could spend a good hour just going over roles he went in. Like he was in the 1984 version of Dune, and Paris, Texas, and Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Yep.
He was very active. As far as cause of death, well, it's being 85 years old.
Yeah.
You know. Once again, we haven't unlocked the singularity yet, so people still die of old age related diseases and just not being able to do the homeostasis anymore. So hopefully, apparently he had a good death, so to speak, in that he was surrounded by family and went peacefully.
Yeah.
Which is about as good as you can get on this mortal coil.
Yep.
Hopefully, hopefully he's doing well in whatever comes next after this life. Kind of awkward to end there.
I'd like to think that he just leapt into another existence.
It works, he's helping Sam or Scott Bakula.
All throughout time.
Yeah. Anyway, moving to more general entertainment stuff. Well, a lot of Netflix, because they just had their festival of anime the other day, and there's a lot to unpack here. Ironically, we should start with the live action stuff. Because,
that live action One Piece cast actually not that bad insofar as you're pursuing the horribly cursed mission of trying to put One Piece into live action.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. They look. Let's say they look good without the makeup and the CGI. Let's see what happens afterward.
Right, but it's a good first step. Better first step than I was expecting.
Yeah.
They actually selected an actor of color for Usopp, so that's nice.
Yep. And of course, the most predictable thing is, well, people were complaining about Nami because
that she doesn't have Oda proportions.
Yes, actually, it's once again,
First off, Nami at the beginning of One Piece actually had fairly realistic human proportions.
I know. Even if you were to go along those lines, Nami was regular at East Blue.
Right. And secondly, good luck finding an actual actress who can wear a necklace as a belt, but needs to use a picnic basket for a bra.
I'm like, there are women who exist, but they tend to be in not just porn, but specialty porn. They have really, really big implants, and thus you're probably not going to be seeing.
Not even just that. You could get people with big breasts and hips, but the stomachs, the midsections.
I know.
On the way Oda has evolved to draw his attractive female characters. Are just there are organs there.
Yes, I know this, but very lonely men on the internet don't. Once again, I dunked on this on Twitter a couple hours ago because some internet troglodyte was going off on flat casting. Yeah, I'm like,
am I high?
Yeah, it's like, and I'm like, yeah. Guess what? Human women don't look like Nami. I'm like, you're trying to bring realism. You're trying to bring fucking Oda's fantasy proportions into real life. Like, anime in general, that's hard. Fucking Oda, he goes out of his way to not be realistic. That's
Right.
kind of
That's why casting One Piece in live action is cursed. God forbid they ever get far enough where they have to put Frankie or Jinbei in.
Jesus.
oh god, just wait until they get to God, what's his name? Brooke.
Like,
Brooke, yeah.
Or shit, even
Brooke they can at least do with a CGI puppet.
God, or Tony Chopper. Like,
Yeah, Chopper first.
Okay, but they can do small furry CGI things fairly well. Frankie is just not plausible. He's like even buffer Popeye, only like 10 feet tall,
oh.
and also he's a robot, so or part robot, so
I know. He doesn't make once again. He doesn't make any sense, and that's just kind of the One Piece idiom.
right.
Like,
It's the characters have a cartoon sensibility.
hell, just Captain Jack Morgan is going to be interesting. Like, first of all,
that jaw cover thing will be
well, you're also going to have somebody who's going to willingly put on Zubas in 2021.
and poor whoever has to play Helmeppo.
Oh yeah. And
Which, by the way, I believe the reason that Morgan wears that metal lower jaw is because he also has a butt chin under it.
oh, how embarrassing! Even, it's a good first step, but we're gonna have to see more. I'm like, to see how cursed.
Yeah. At this point, it's basically congratulations. You haven't screwed it up yet.
Yeah. And so, also, what was tweeted out like in the middle of the night is, hey, Yu Yu Hakusho is getting a live action adaptation. This is different though because this is going to be a Japanese adaptation. That's actually
it could work.
It could work, but the concern there is it might not have the budget that the Western stuff would have. Like, but I suppose we'll see. Once again, like Yu Yu Hakusho could work. Emphasis on could, because once again, capturing the anime aesthetic in real life is harder than people think it is. I'm gonna keep banging on.
And I mean,
about this.
the Toguros are gonna look terrible, obviously, but
even Hiei is probably gonna be an issue, like when he has all the eyes on him.
I'm more concerned about where they'll find an actor short enough.
They have to break motherfuckers' legs.
Or he might just be, regular sized.
But part of the fun of Hiei is that he's like that. He's that. I'm 12 ounces of whoop ass.
Yes, I know. And of course, they're gonna have to find a way to make Kuwabara's hair work in real life.
They can do that.
Yeah,
it's an imitation of an actual style that they're familiar with. They just have to make it red, or they can not make it red and just have him be black haired, and everyone will think it's weird.
fair enough. So they could, this should be more doable than a lot of other anime adaptations. Should be. Once again, we'll have to see how it plays out because this adaptation's a ways away. It's coming December 2023. I don't know why they just announced that date, but they did. So we'll see how this pans out. But Netflix also had a whole bunch of actual anime announcements. I think the chief among them is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Stone Ocean got a release date of December 1st, and the first 12 episodes are dropping. And the anime fan base is not happy. you want to know why? Because Weekly JoJo.
Yeah.
I'm like, guess what? Netflix has only started up the weekly anime stuff because that is anime that is airing on television first. That's why a lot of anime is still weekly. It's still airing on like Japanese television. Netflix made a direct deal with David Productions to get very first dibs on Stone Ocean. So they're getting the episodes first, then they're hitting Japanese television in January. So, I'm not exactly sure what the point is there, but it's probably a contractual thing. Point is Stone Ocean's premiering on Netflix first. And Netflix is going to do what Netflix does, and that's the binge model. They like the binge model. I think anime watchers are just gonna have to get used to that to a certain degree. I will give Netflix has made strides doing the weekly stuff, but they're not. They don't have the mentality of Disney or Warner or a lot of companies that still have terrestrial connections and thus still like to release stuff week in and week out. And are concerned about the weekly conversation on the social media, of which JoJo was pretty famous for the JoJo reactions. I'm like, you're just gonna have to adapt because Netflix is not going to be dropping this, one episode a week. It's coming that particular Wednesday. And I don't know, it could be another 3 months before the next drop. It can be frustrating, but on the other hand, since this is a Netflix first production, it's going to be simuldubbed. It's going to have an English dub, a Spanish dub. I'm trying to remember all of the language. I think Italian, French. It's going to have, a lot more than the usual amount of simuldubs. And by the way, that is another reason why Netflix tends to build up episodes and release them in batches. It's not just, because they like doing that. It's because they want to make sure that dubs are available. They're doing that with Stone Ocean here. And, as far as looking forward to Stone Ocean, I am looking forward to it, and I am also not looking forward to it. Okay, so, who here is familiar with JoJo's manga?
Some, yeah.
Somebody go ask Ogre.
I know there are some weird characters in Stone Ocean.
Well, no, the thing about Stone Ocean is this is kind of the pinnacle of JoJo bullshit. It got so bad that Araki literally had to reset the universe, and credit where credit is due. We got Steel Ball Run out of it, but this is actually still.
They reset it the Futurama way.
Yeah, because, like I said, the JoJo bullshit just got out of control. It's arguably been out of control since Part 4, but Part 5 was pretty bad with it. Part 6 is rough.
There's Jumping the Shark and then there's JoJo Part 6.
Some fans would say that. There's actually a sizable contingent that don't like Part 6 because of how bullshit it got there at the end. There are other concerns.
Although if we're talking about JoJo and shark jumping...
Yeah, what even is shark jumping in conjunction with JoJo? I asked.
Fair enough.
I'm like, my big concern is how they're going to address Jolene's love interest. Because, okay. Was supposed to be a trans woman. But that got nixed. In fact, it's mentioned early in the manga that, get her name, but is there to get hormone therapy. That's why That's why, if you will, a guy is at a girl's prison. And the editors just freaked the fuck out over that suggestion.
I wonder why. Rolls eyes.
Well, yeah. So, kind of wonder how they're going to handle that. Because, it's transphobia, plain and simple. Also homophobia, if we're being complete here. So, if that's unchanged, it's not something I'm looking forward to. Anyway, a lot of stuff here. Tiger and Bunny Part 2 got announced.
Yeah.
Was I the only one who's watched Tiger and Bunny?
I never watched it, but I've heard of it, and I kind of wanted to, maybe.
I mean,
I heard that it was. I generally heard positive things about it. So,
well, I mean, Part 1 is on Netflix right now. Granted, it's not the best way to watch because, so one of the big things about Tiger and Bunny superheroes is they're corporate sponsored. Like, they got actual logos of actual companies. Like, and
bangs.
Because Tiger and Bunny's making a statement on commodification, and that's completely gone from the Netflix version because, well, it's like some of those companies don't even exist. Like, I believe like Wild Tiger was sponsored by Ustream.
Yeah,
Ustream doesn't even exist anymore.
Yeah, I don't think Wild Tiger was, but another character was. But yeah, that's
it could have been Barnaby. I forget who, but my point. And I think Blue Rose endorsed like Pepsi
Blue, but
Pepsi
that could go easily back to just regular Pepsi.
Yeah, my point is that's kind of the curse of using real world advertisements. Sometimes it's not just you have to relicense them, or it's not even necessarily a licensing thing. It's they get paid to have those brands there. I'm not sure if it's that case. My point is some of those things don't exist anymore. And that's why it's not there. I'm not sure if Part 2 is going to go down this route, but yeah, it took a decade to get another season. I don't know why. Let's see. Other stuff, other sequels. Bear Stars Part 3 or Season 3 is happening.
The character sponsored by Ustream of Keith.
There we go.
Yeah.
We're getting Agretsuko Season 4. Hopefully the pile of capitalism doesn't try to tell me to fuck capitalism again. Like, that is a thing that happened in Season 3. And I'm like, okay, even ignoring the fact that you're a Netflix show, you exist because, you're trying to sell a subscription here. You're from fucking Sanrio. You exist because of capitalism. Like, yeah, if you don't know what Sanrio is, they're a company that exists to have characters on shit. They're the people who gave us Hello Kitty, among other companies. So, this is just a lot of how do you do, fellow socialists of the youth. It's not fucking awkward. Anyway, more Kakaguri, spin-off Kakaguri Twin. I thought Kakaguri was okay, but I don't know that. Let's see. Detective Conan spin-offs are happening.
Yeah.
But a bit awkward since, I'm wondering how accessible because, okay, I know Detective Conan's a big thing in Japan, but, Detective Conan / Case Closed, they tried to give it a push here about, 2004? I don't know, whenever the fuck it showed up on Adult Swim.
Yeah.
Didn't really take. Because, well, at least the mainline Detective Conan is, oh god, kind of the epitome of being in between Western demographics. Like, it's a bit too kiddie looking to be taken seriously by adults, but it's way too fucking violent for kids.
Yeah.
Oh God! But like the first episode has a beheading,
Sounds about right.
which is why that was rated TV-14 and appeared on Adult Swim. But like it didn't work. So, but specifically, it's Detective Conan, the culprit Hanazawa, and Zero's Tea Time, which are both spin-off manga. I admit I don't know that much about Detective Conan, so I guess this is a big deal. Like, I really have no measurement here. They did have some original stuff announced. Oh, Ultraman Season 2 is happening. I don't know, the first one was thoroughly mediocre. I'm really looking forward to more of that. Let's see. Original stuff. The Orbital Children. Looks interesting. Vampire in the Garden. Looks like Vampire Yuri. Hard to tell because this is all original stuff. You've also got the limited Rila Kuma's Theme Park Adventure, and like I said, a whole bunch of stuff happening in terms of anime, Netflix, but not the only thing to talk about in those terms this week because holy fuck, yes, Adult Swim, I know Blade Runner Black Lotus is coming this week. You can stop telling us.
They're putting a lot of money and a lot of promotion into this, and I really fear that they put too much into this and that it's not going to return fully on the investment made.
That's an understandable concern, but I also get completely why they're doing this, because out of the 4 Crunchyroll, Toonami co-productions, this is the one that has the most cachet. I mean, they get like Fena Pirate Princess was an original property, and they gave it a decent push. Uzumaki is a year away. Shenmue doesn't have a release date yet, and also Shenmue is a very, very culty property here. So is Uzumaki. Maybe less so in Japan, but Shenmue and Uzumaki. Let's face facts here. They exist because Jason DeMarco wanted them to exist.
Yes.
He
got a promotion off of this. I mean, God.
Yeah. I mean, I don't doubt he had a strong hand in Blade Runner Black Lotus, but I don't know if you've noticed, but Blade Runner is actually kind of a big franchise for Warner now.
It's not as big as they claim it is.
No, I know, but it's still bigger than anything else they got here.
Blade
Runner's bigger than...
I mean, obviously, doing a big amount of off-network promotion with this.
Just off-network, but they just announced today that they're doing a Blade Runner marathon Thanksgiving Day Friday.
No, Black Friday night. There's going to be showing a short, the Blade Runner sequel, which barely made more than its budget, and the first 3 episodes from this weekend.
So, and this is actually apparently the first time Toonami has been off of a Saturday since 2004.
Jesus.
Yeah, although I don't know whether I want to. This is going to be an asterisk because it's one freaking thing, essentially.
It's a off, but it's still the first time this has happened in goddamn 16 years or so.
Yeah. First time since, Tom became Thomas the Tank Engine and flew off.
Yeah, like...
Remember that? Yeah, we remember.
Yeah.
So, like, call it desperation, I'd call it hype, but,
it's hype bordering on desperation.
Yeah, I'm like... But my point is, They've put the marketing muscle behind it.
Yep, absolutely. No question about it.
So, and I don't know if it's going to take, because once again, Blade Runner, it's a lot more niche and culty than Warner would like.
Yeah.
But they're still trying to make it a thing. They're still trying to make fetch happen.
Yeah. See, the thing is that here's the problem. It's premiering now. Like, we're like, what, 2-3 weeks away from Thanksgiving? First 2 weeks, it might make a splash. The holidays are going to eat it alive. Nobody's going to care about it. They can do all the marathons and all the cute stuff they want. The holidays, they're going to eat this baby alive.
I get that, but once again, it's not something any of us can do. They decided.
Yep, that's what. But they've made their choice. They've made their bed. Now they're going to have to lay in it.
And it's not like they got anything else.
Yeah.
Everything else to next year. I'm like,
Yep. That's the choice they made. They made that choice. They made it. Yep.
The dice cast. We'll see if it rolled on a 6 or a 1. Oh, as far as the actual show goes, it looks promising. Like, but I don't know. Like, we'll see how it goes.
It looks too freaking 90s, too freaking late 90s 3D CGI for me.
It's on a television budget, so it's gonna have a bit of that.
Yeah.
But oh, who dropped?
Garlics dropped off for a bit. His internet went out.
Oh.
Okay. Anyway, we should probably wrap this up for the week.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, be sure to tune in tomorrow when I do more Legend of Zelda, the Minish Cap, at 8 p.m. That's it. That's all I got.
10 out of 10 best outro.
Yeah, until next time.
Our
Thanks.
season finale is next week.
What's that? Yeah.
You should note the fact that next week is our season series, somewhere like that finale.
Indeed. What he said.
So, join us next week, guys.
Indeed. All right, and then the goal is to relaunch Moonhawk Studios Presents by February. So there will be something to look forward to, and then in the interim, I will probably be doing an episode of Max Mind where I will be talking about what's going on in the studio, and so on and so forth. So.
Oh wait, am I back?
You are.
Yeah.
Just
You're
in
right.
time to leave.
Sorry, I was posting in the text thing. My internet went out. Apparently, they were doing some kind of scheduled maintenance or something, and I had no idea how long it was going to take. I was over by the router, and the lights didn't look like they were back yet. So, sorry about that.
It's fine.
All right.
Anyhow.
Well. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there, kids.
See you next week.
All right. Take care.